There are a lot of strong opinions on the renovations that are happening at Doak Campbell Stadium. There's a lot of thoughts on what it's going to do to the game day atmosphere, the capacity, the crowd, the crowd size, just all aspects. What it will eventually trickle down and do to the athletic program and the product on the field. Now, there's a lot of emotion that goes into this, and we talked about it on this week's live show. And I'll tell you this, we put a disclaimer on the beginning of it to say that if you're in the affected sections, if your seats that you've had for 10, 15, 20, 25 or more years are impacted, and you're either being priced out or just moved out altogether, I understand your complaint. And this conversation that Richie and I had was certainly not directed your way. It's directed towards the people who this isn't impacting. We got some comments after of people saying, well, my seats are impacted. And we tried to preface at the beginning of that conversation that we really weren't talking to those people. We understand that gripe at the end of the day, and we get it. And the inaction of many is now having an impact on a few and several that are in that situation. And so if you fit that category, just hear me out. We're not directing it at you. And I don't want you to think that we are. That said, I'm going to play you our conversation for Sunday in case you missed it. And then I want to get your thoughts. What are your strong opinions, weak opinion, whatever, on what's happening at Doak Campbell Stadium? But check out what Richie and I had to say this week. Something that is getting old pretty quick. Good transition there. The Doak Renovations have FSU fans feeling some type of way, you wrote here. Yes. Fans are upset about these renovations, Richie. All right, and so let me preface this by saying, if you are watching this or you listen to it later and your family had seats in the same section for years and years and years, and your family's seats got moved during this process, or to renew your seats, it's incredibly more expensive. And that's presents a challenge for your family, presents like a cost value thing for your family where you don't want to do it in that same section. I understand. I will say there are other options, like you can move elsewhere in the stadium and have an option. But if you're impacted by that because your seats are being moved or more expensive, then I think you have a gripe. The problem is most of these whiny people on the internet are not impacted by it. They sit at home. They didn't spend their money. They weren't going to games in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021 when we sucked. And so Florida State put into motion things to increase revenue because y'all weren't going to games, or we weren't going to games, whatever. We'll just say the fan base wasn't going to games. And so don't complain about it now. Don't complain about them doing things that are going to increase the revenue. Again, if you're impacted, that's your one exception. You can complain all you want, but it's probably not even those folks that are doing the crux of the complaining on social media. If you had tickets in the same section for 40 years, you ain't on X complaining about it. So anyway, Richie, I'll shut up and let you go for a minute.
Yeah, I think that's the main point, right? If you're a mid-level, Silver Chief, lower end Golden Chief booster, and you've had seats on the shady side in the 30s in the sections for years, and now you're being either pushed out entirely or just priced out. Yeah, you have a legitimate gripe, and I will not argue with you at all. But the people complaining are probably the ones who are not boosters. They go to one game every other year, and they just want something to complain about. Because the high-dollar boosters, they're not complaining. They're probably not happy about the price increase, but they're probably happy with what they're going to get in return for it. They understand that, that value right there. But yeah, if you don't go to games and you're not a booster, you're probably not giving to the battle's ends. Guess what? When we host, North Alabama, you'll still be able to get a ticket for less than $50 probably if you want to. It's not a big deal. There's no reason to get overly upset about this. And I do think it brings great value to the fans who are giving the most. And listen, Florida State's not stupid. The leadership we have with Michael Alford and President McCullough and everything that's going on, they're not going to make decisions that are going to piss off the key shareholders in Florida State football. The high-dollar boosters, the legacy Golden Chiefs, that's who we are trying to appease because they are the ones funding the program. They're not only funding football, they're funding basketball, baseball, women's softball, women's golf, everything. The same few 1% of donors are funding our entire athletic program. So they would not make these changes if they were not on board with this. So again, like TJ said, if you had the same seats for 40 years and you're either getting pushed out or priced out, that sucks. And I feel for you because I would be furious as well. But guess what? Those people probably aren't even mad. They understand if they've made that kind of investment and they said, you know what? That's fine. I'll still give my booster donation. I may not get season tickets, but I'll still come up for 2 or 3 games a year and gladly pay the school for tickets elsewhere throughout the stadium. So yeah, I just don't get the anger about the stadium renovation when it's going to make Doak one of the best college football experiences in the country come 2025.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I get it, right? Like I get all sides of it. I get the argument of, oh, well, it's reducing capacity and this, that, and I get it. I get it, right? I'm the one that I wish there were 150,000 people that could fit into Doak. Like I get it. I would love that. The truth of the matter is, though, that we're just not doing that. We're just not filling that stadium enough.
And the location doesn't allow that.
Yeah, it just doesn't, right? You're not filling it enough. And we've talked about this. We've whined and we've complained and we've begged people to become boosters. Richie, we have done full-on free advertising for the boosters for 2.5 years now. And the fact that Florida State has the the largest alumni base in the ACC, and I believe they are 6th in donors. Let me say that again. The Florida State has the largest, I keep messing it up, has the largest alumni base in the ACC, and they're 6th right now in active boosters. That's unacceptable. I don't even care if you are a booster and you do have seats on the home side. Just the fact that is the fact about our fan base is ridiculous. Yeah. Florida State has, and then you look outside of alumni. Go look at how many Twitter followers, Facebook followers, Instagram followers Florida State has, and then compare it to the other teams in the conference. NC State, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina. Florida State dwarfs all of them. It's not even close. Florida State has more than Florida if you just look at social media. And Florida has a larger alumni base. So you look at fans, you look at viewership, you look at alumni, and Florida State's number one everywhere. And we're 6th in booster donations. We're 6th in number of paying boosters. And so we've begged you for years to go and support the boosters. Every year I up my booster membership. Not by much because I don't make a lot of money, but I do. I up it every single year. And we get on here and we beg and we ask people to go sign up. Boosters.fsu.edu. Go do it after the show. But if people refuse to do that, the Florida State's going to look to make revenue in other ways. They're going to say, okay, well, we've got a smaller booster section. We've got a smaller booster base because we need to be 6th, I guess, in the ACC because people won't get off their wallet and do it for $70 a year. We'll make revenue by the few that do support, the few that do sign up. They'll sign up and pay for more expensive tickets. They'll sign up and pay for upgraded seats. Those seats aren't going to be empty. The Champions Club is always sold out, guys. Like it might look bad. You may not like the way it looks on TV, but there ain't ever extra seats. And
the people complaining are the ones sitting on their couch watching on TV.
And so, listen, the school has asked you for years and years and years to sign up and support, and people didn't. And again, I'm not talking to the 223 people watching this live right now. I know all of you guys are signed up and support, but it's the people that aren't tuned in right now that we're yelling at. So that's my biggest complaint with it is the school is going, the university, the athletic department, they're going to do not only what makes sense financially, but they're going to do what makes sense long term. This is the way that college athletics is going. Again, if we were in Orlando, if we were in Miami, I trust that we would have people come to our games. We could actually sell out a stadium in Miami. I think that's the biggest thing is Richie talked about location. Florida State and AD Alford has talked about the distance for the average fan to have to get to a game. It's about 4 hours. I mean, that's what it is for me. That's what it is for Richie. If you come from elsewhere, I mean, it makes it even tougher. So I don't know. I think you see that and you say, hey, we're going to make changes so that we can make revenue that we need to continue to be successful. And so, yeah, I don't have a huge problem with it. Richie, I don't even know. My seats are on the home side, but I don't even know if they're affected or not Probably. Is everything on the home
Yeah.
side? I haven't had my call yet.
I
So
would think so. But and to your point, location. So I have a lot of really good friends that went to UF. We go to Florida State every single year when they play in Gainesville because we can make a day trip out of it and we're not getting gouged by the hotels. I looked up yesterday or the day before hotel prices for the Clemson game. Something like the Country and Suites was like 600 a night, 2 night minimum. So you're looking at over 1,400 or over $1,400 just for hotel stay. I'm not. Guess what? I'm not going. Yeah, I'm going to Ireland. I'll pay the money for that. That's a special once in a lifetime thing. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. And as much as we hate Clemson, I got to shout them out. They had the best booster campaign I can ever recall with Ipite. I pay 10 a year. And that was their whole thing. They said, listen, if everyone that comes to this game gives $10 a year to the boosters, we're going to be just fine. And they were ahead of us financially for the longest time. I think Florida State's finally caught up or surpassed them. But imagine if every FSU fan on Twitter and every single Florida State fan that went into Doak on a Saturday gave $10 a year. That'd be huge, but people just don't want to give. But you're glad they're going to pay $22 for Netflix and another $20 for HBO Max and all this nonsense. But yeah, the boosters and Battle's End. If you are watching the show, you are a diehard Florida State fan. You would not be watching otherwise. Give minimum $70 a year to that's $5 a month, or just under it to the boosters, and give a one-time $20 donation to Battle's End or recurring payments if you can. That goes a very long way. The roster we had last year that should have landed us in the playoff does not happen without the Battle's End. It just does not. And Florida State is likely going to be favored to win the ACC this year. That does not happen without the boosters and the Battle's End. So even if it's just a little bit, it goes a long way if enough of us do it.
Richie, we had which we'll have less on this video, but in January we had 146.6 thousand people, unique viewers. That's not total views. 146.6 thousand people view the YouTube channel so far in 2024. So that counts January and then the first 3 days here. So just under 150,000 people. Again, we don't have a tenth of that are boosters. I think our numbers are around 13,000 right now. So if it was a tenth, we'd be at 14,000. So again, stop complaining about how the size of the stadium and get off your wallet. So that's not to anybody in here live. I know you guys all contribute. So that's just for other people that aren't watching. All right, let's roll before we get on that tangent even longer. Let's give Garden Gold some love. GardenGold.com. Use code NOSLAW, NOSLAW for 15% off. I think if you pick up in store, I think I'm going up there this weekend. If you pick up in store, you get your order, you get your shipping, no shipping cost, right? I don't know why I said it backwards, but no shipping cost if you pick up in store, and then if you order $75 or more, which is not hard to do with like Nike and Columbia and different stuff, I think it's free shipping then anyway. So 15% off, NOSLAW, NOSLAW. At the end of the day, I understand all sides of this. I understand if you were impacted. I understand if you just want 80+ thousand people in the stadium because you like that environment. Unfortunately, I understand the school side too, and I understand the need to continue to make up a gap of $30+ million with our competition in the SEC and the Big Ten. Now, hopefully we're in one of those conferences soon. Hopefully we are no longer trying to make that gap up, but I understand the side of Florida State as well. And I get all sides, and I get that there's no perfect solution here. I get that there's no exact perfect way that makes absolutely every Seminole fan happy. But businesses are not run to make every single person who supports them happy. And as much of a tough reality as that might be to hear, the Seminole Boosters and the Florida State Athletic Department are a business that need to make money and need to make money to continue to compete for championships. And if that means that we have to sacrifice a little bit of our home attendance, if that means that they have to sacrifice a little bit of the number of people coming in, then I understand it. They have to make the moves, the business moves that make the most sense for them. And does that frustrate some fans? Does that frustrate some longtime boosters? Absolutely. I understand that. But is it what's ultimately best for the university? Well, time's going to tell all that. It's tough to know here in early 2024 what the long-term ramifications of these decisions are. I do know that Michael Alford and Florida State's athletics department right now are being run incredibly well. They've cleaned up a ton of mess that was left over for them from past regimes. And I do trust that they have the best intentions for Florida State athletics in the forefront of their mind when they're making these decisions. We'll see how it all pans out. I think this is the way that most college athletics are going at this point. You can look up what other programs have done, and you'll see that this is the path they're taking. But at the end of the day, the proof will be in the pudding on this. We will see if this was the right decision, if we fall behind, if we lag behind due to certain decisions that are made, and then we can have that conversation. I suspect, though, that Michael Alford does have us pointing in the right direction, and as uncomfortable as it may be for some of us, this is probably what's best for Florida State athletics. This is probably what's best for Florida State football and Doak Campbell going forward. Now, I know that's not a comfortable thing to hear if you are one of the ones that's impacted. But if you're one of the ones that aren't supporting, if you're one of the ones that we were talking to when we were begging you to sign up to be boosters, maybe change that so that things aren't impacted in the future. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys for watching today. We'll talk to you guys soon. Go Noles.